Welcome back to another episode of NRL by Jellyman here on Wednesday, May the 17th. Looking back at round 11, looking forward to round 12, previewing stats, everything like that. Team standings, round 12 previewing stats, and round 12 best bets as well. But cracking straight into it, looking back at last Thursday, May the 11th, the Storm beating the Broncos 24-16. A game of two halves in this one, favouring one side and favouring the other. Melbourne were hard done by in the first half with a couple of rough calls, and then the Broncos were also hard done by in the second half with a couple of rough calls, sin binnings, whatnot. Obviously, Adam Reynolds going down throughout that sequence, the Herbie Farnworth penalty try, which probably wasn't a penalty try in our eyes, and then also the sin binning of, I guess, Farnworth, then Carrigan, and Flegler late, but those two Farnworth and Carrigan ones, probably the main ones there. And obviously Melbourne should have had a bigger win with that Coates runaway try hitting Justin Olam in the face, meaning play on. But not too much else to take away from this one. Due to some of the calls that were made, due to obviously the Broncos losing Reynolds early and a couple of sin bins, but a good win for the Storm nonetheless coming off the bye. Looking forward to Friday. So the Warriors beating the Bulldogs 24-12. Curran, Fanua Blake, DWZ and Volkman all scoring for the Warriors. Edwards and Ockenbaugh. The Warriors just looked like the much better side in this one. The Dogs obviously quite a few outs, but they are getting to blood some young talent. Obviously the Warriors winning prior to the bye helps them coming into the back end of the bye and that origin period where they'll likely not have many outs, if any, off the top of the dome. The next game in the evening was the Penrith Panthers smashing the Sydney Roosters 48-4. Sorensen scored a double, Edwards, Peachy a double, To'o, Taruva, and also Luai all scoring. Corey Allen scoring for the Roosters to get them off the donut. But it was all one-way traffic in this one. The Panthers just looked like the much better side, and the Roosters continue to slide down the ladder, and they just don't look like themselves. Yes, they have a few injuries, but everyone has a few injuries. They're just not a team clicking at the moment and don't really have a sense of identity as such right now. Moving to Saturday's game, so South beat the Tigers 20-0. Obviously, the South scoring early through Milne, being a 6-0 game till the 51st minute when the Trail kicked the penalty goal, and then two tries late to Milne and then Mitchell, obviously getting that 20-0 scoreline. The Tigers a gritty performance up until about that 70th minute. I mean, it being 8-0 up until the 70th minute against the South Sydney Rabbitohs, who we are picking for the minor premiership at the moment, is a solid effort for the West Tigers, and obviously building into next week as well. The other games on the Saturday fixture were the Cowboys thumping the Dragons 42-22 up there in Townsville. Felt scored a double, Lukey a double, Dearden a double, and Goziski also scored. DeBellin, Shua, Ravalawa, and Sully all scored for the St. George Dragons. Obviously, the Dragons now without a coach, Anthony Griffin. We haven't checked as of yet who's taking over that position, but could potentially see a bit of a comeback from them this week. Obviously, losing their last 6 games in a row, and hopefully want to bounce back with a new coach there. Next game for the evening was the Raiders beating the Eels 26-18. Hopewada, Young, Chris and Tomoko all scoring for the Raiders. And for the Eels, Hopgood, Simonson, Sevo. The Eels obviously really missing Mitch Moses there. And just struggling in attack, but also being down in Canberra there. Canberra looking okay at the moment. I think they've won 5 on the trot as well. So they're in some good form currently coming into that origin period. Sunday's games, so the 2 games on Sundays, so the Knights and the Titans. So the Knights beating the Titans 46-26. A lot of points scored. It was 18-16 when we checked into this one, and then the Knights just ran away with it. So Best scored a double, Ponga, Frizzell, Marju, Young scored a double, and also Gagai scoring as well. For the Titans, Fafita, Sammy, Fafita scored a double, and then also Khan Pereira scoring late to make the scoreline a bit more respectable. But this one was just another typical Titans performance. They were in it for 50-odd minutes, and then they just let the floodgates open, and it was all Newcastle from then on. But a good performance for Newcastle coming off the bye as well. The last game of the evening was the Sea Eagles playing the Sharks. This one very similar to the South game, 20-2 up until about the 62-minute mark until Garrett went over. And then obviously the Sharkies with a few out at the moment. Hunt, Katoa and Ramey all scored, and Garrick and Croker scored for the Seagulls. But the Sharkies got a good gritty defensive win up there in Brookvale. And the Seagulls obviously have a fair way back at the moment if they're wanting to play top 8 type football. Looking into the ladder and how that looks at the moment. The Rabbitohs, Broncos, Panthers, Sharks all up there at the moment. Actually, I've got to refresh this ladder. Yeah, sorry. So the Rabbitohs 8 and 3 at the moment. Broncos 8 and 3, and then the Panthers next and third at 6 and 4, and also with a bye. So the Rabbitohs and Broncos yet to have a bye as of yet. The Sharkies there in 4th, Storm 5th, and 6th is the Dolphins. So 5th and 6th play off this week, which will be interesting because Dolphins have just come off the bye. Then the Raiders in 7th and the Warriors in 8th. Dropping out of the top 8. The Titans now at 5 and 5 and 1. The Roosters 5 and 1 bye as well, also in 10th. The Knights there, 1 win out of, half a win, a draw out of the top 8 at the moment, or a win and a half out of the top 8, just behind the Roosters there. The Seagulls 4, 1 and 5 as well. The Cowboys, Eels, Bulldogs, Dragons, West Tigers. We'll be interested to see how this changes after the first Origin period. Round 12 preview, looking into that side of things. So obviously the Broncos play the Panthers on Thursday night. Obviously Indigenous round as well, up there in Brisbane, this one. So there's a couple of changes. Obviously Reynolds out for the Brisbane Broncos, meaning Jock Madden comes in. The Penrith Panthers remain pretty much unchanged 1 through to 18, or the replacements changed. So 1 through to 17 remains pretty much the same. And I guess some stats in this one, and then some insights as well. So Brisbane 42 points or less in 5 of their last 6 games. 34 plus points though, so 34 plus total points in their last 7 games. So they're ranging from that 42 to 34 mark. They've allowed 16 plus points in 5 of their last 6 games. Jesse Arthars 1 plus try in his last 5 games, and they're allowing tries to the edges in the last 5 games, and also allowing tries to the right edge attack as well. So down that right edge, their left edge is quite average at the moment. That's through Jesse Arthars, and also out there is obviously Farnworth as well, had a mental blank. Panthers have allowed more than 18 points only once this season, and a 1 plus try in 4 of his last 6 games. Looking at the preview done on NRL.com, for a few more stats there. Penrith have won 4 of their last 5 matches against the Broncos and have won their past 7 games at Suncorp. The Broncos have not beaten the Panthers twice in a season since 2017, obviously beating them in round 1 this season. In the last 6 matches played between both clubs, the losing side has scored a total of 12 points in every game. So potentially look at the 12 points or under for the Brisbane Broncos, because we like the Panthers in this one. And Cobbo has scored 17 tries in his past 17 games at Suncorp. So this one, we're looking at the Panthers, no changes. They thumped the Roosters last week. Reynolds being out for the Broncos doesn't help their cause either. In terms of turnaround, so Brizzy come off a turnaround last Thursday, so they do get a 7-day break. The Panthers come off the game last Friday, so it's a 6-day break, so no real differences there. Obviously, Penrith playing away, but we definitely like the Penrith Panthers in that one. Looking at probably their line as well, potentially total points under. Just checking in on the weather in Brisbane on Thursday night. It'll be a clear night as well, so it'll be quite nice for football, but I expect a fair bit of defense or the Penrith Panthers to run away with it and win well. So looking at the Panthers line. Friday night's game, so we've got St. George hosting the Sydney Roosters at Nostrata Jubilee Stadium in Sydney. Roosters are favoured 145, Dragons 275. Out for the Dragons is Billy Burns. In comes Little and Lomax. So Lomax there in the centres, Little there into hooker. Then obviously Ben Hunt and Amone there in the 6 and 7s. Jaden Sullivan still in number 14. For the Roosters, out goes Joey Manu. In comes, it looks like they've put Billy Smith, Drew Hutchison as halfback and Kiri to 6. So Kiri to 6, Drew Hutchison to 7, which is actually something that's worked for them in previous seasons. And then in on the bench, Jake Turpin comes in there into the hooker spot. And in this one, looking at some stats, the Dragons have allowed 18 plus points in 9 of 10 games this season. They've lost their last 6 games. They're allowing tries to the fullback in 6 of the last 8 games and allowed tries to the right edge in their last 8 games as well. The Roosters, 14 points or less in 5 of their last 6 games and have allowed 20 plus points in 6 of the last 7 games. These teams obviously played off only, April, so it's like 3 weeks ago now, on Anzac Day. 27 and 26 with the Roosters by Tedesco, Radley, Kiri, Manu. For the Dragons, they actually scored more tries. Moga scored 3 tries. Bird and Sloan also scored a try. Lomax just didn't convert well. Suoli'i kicking a penalty goal and Luke Keary kicking a 1-point field goal. That's what kept them in the match there. So it'll be interesting to see how they go down at Nostrada Jubilee Stadium. Some more stats for this one on the NRL.com website. The Roosters have won 9 of their last 10 games against the Dragons. The Dragons have not defeated the Roosters outside of Anzac Day since the 2010 Grand Final. Tedesco has scored 3 tries in his past 2 games against the Dragons. Moga has scored 11 tries in his past 7 NRL games. And Ben Hunt has scored 4 tries in his past 5 games at Nostrada Jubilee Stadium. So some good stats there. The Roosters need a win. The Dragons also need a win, so both sides need to win. Who do we like in this one? Neither right now. We'll probably be looking at the total points over line, but if we had to pick a winner, we're looking at the Sydney Roosters. If they are any chance of playing top 8 football this year, they need to win. Obviously, the Dragons with a new coach coming in, they'll lift for him. But we've got the Sydney Roosters in that one if we're having to pick a head-to-head. Next game for the evening is the South Sydney Rabbitohs hosting the Eels at Allianz Stadium, which is obviously quite interesting it being at Allianz. Out for South is Cartwright. In comes, looks like potentially Shaq Mitchell. Nope, Saluka Fafita, sorry. Liam Knight obviously also on the bench. Out for the Eels is Sean Lane. In comes Mitch Moses. Into his spot is also Andrew Avian Cartwright at 11 and 12. And on the bench, they've kept it pretty much the same. Obviously, Jake Arthur goes out for Mitch Moses. Looking at some stats in this one, the Bunnies 28 plus points in 4 of their last 6 games. They've held teams to 18 points or less in 10 of 11 games this season. Walker 1 plus try in 6 of his last 8 games. Mitchell 1 plus try in 5 of his last 6. Graham still stuck on that 11 tries this season after quite a few tries a few games ago. The Eels, they've scored 20 plus points in 7 of the last 9 games, 42 plus total points in 8 of the last 10 games. They've allowed 22 plus points in 5 of their last 7 games. Sevo, 14 tries in his last 10 games, also 1 plus try in 8 of his last 10 games. Gutherson, 1 plus try in 5 of his last 7 games. And the Eels, they're allowing tries to the left edge in their last 4 games. Looking at some stats on NRL.com as well here. South Sydney have won 8 of their last 9 matches against the Eels, including the past 6. Alex Johnston has scored 7 tries in his last 3 games against the Eels, 15 tries in 12 career games as well. The clash will be the first time both sides will meet at the new Allianz Stadium since 2005. Gutherson has scored 7 tries in his past 8 games against the Rabbitohs. And Latrell Mitchell 2 tries away from 100 NRL tries as well. We're picking a result here, which will be the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Look at the total points over as well. Even with the South not allowing points, we expect them to score points against an Eels defence that has struggled at times this season. Saturday's game, so the Sharkies playing the Knights in Coffs Harbour. So we'll be having a look at this one at the recent games in Coffs Harbour. Also, obviously, the weather closer to the time. The Sharkies obviously favour 131 at the Knights 350. The Knights plus time might look good in this one. Out is McInnes, in Hamlin Uele, and Oregon Kafusi. Kafusi into the prop position. Hamlin Uele just named on the extended bench, so he might be a late in there. For the Knights, out is Dylan Lucas, in Heimel Hunt, but no one actually in the squad. They're 1 to 17. Is unchanged, so it's just their extended bench that comes in. Some stats in this one: Sharkies 44 plus total points in 8 of 10 games this season. The Sharks have won 4 of the last 5 games. Mulatalo 10 tries in his last 9 games, 1+ try in 7 of his last 9 games. Katoa, 1+ try in 3 of his last 4. The Knights, they've allowed 18+ points in 5 of their last 6 games. Marju, 1+ try in 5 of his last 7 games. Dom Young, 12 tries in his last 8 games and 1+ try in 6 of his last 7. The NRL stats on here will include the Sharks' back 3 have combined for 483 run meters against Manly last week, one more than the backs' back 3. So backs versus backs, 3v3 will be interesting to watch. The Sharks won home and away games against the Knights in 2022. The Sharks have won both games played in Coffs Harbour. Dom Young scored 9 tries in his past 6 NRL games. Ramian has scored 6 tries in 7 games against the Knights. And then also the Sharks lead the NRL for line breaks after 11 rounds with 63. So it'll be line breaks and tackle breaks aplenty for both of these sides. Look at the total points over the Sharkies head-to-head. But don't discount the Knights plus line as well, with them keeping it tight with quite a high score. Both teams to score 20+ points is probably a good bet in this one as well. And there'll be a few more to come. The other 2 games on the Saturday fixture include the Tigers hosting the Cowboys at Lightheart Oval. 235 the Tigers, 160 the Cowboys. The Tigers remain unchanged 1 through 17. The Cowboys out to Moore Brown. In for him will come a couple of bench players, unsure who as of yet. In terms of stats, this one we're limited on stats we've been able to find. Tigers 38 total points or less in their last 4 games, and they're allowing tries to the left wing in their last 2 games. Felt 1+ try in 3 of his last 4 games as well. In terms of stats on NRL.com, Brooks, it's his 200th game, so expect them to get up and about for him there. In terms of stats, Reid Marnie has kicked on 4 more 40-20s than Brooks this season. The West Tigers have won only 2 of their past 9 games at Lightheart Oval. Nofaluma has scored 7 tries in his past 9 games at Lightheart. And Felt has scored 6 tries in his past 6 games. As we mentioned, he's playing quite well. This one 50-50 because the Cowboys have been terrible away from home this season so far. Yes, they won their last 2 games against the Dragons and the Roosters, but then at home against the Knights. But in terms of being away, lost the Sharks, Warriors, Bulldogs, Broncos, and all their other wins have been at home. So in terms of them going down to Lightheart, it could be a chance for the Tigers to get another win. But if the Cowboys are who they are from last season and they've turned a corner, they should win and win well against the Tigers. This one's 50-50 at the moment. We'll have to look a bit more into the recent history between both these sides. Having a quick look at it now, the Cowboys did beat the Tigers 27-26 and 36-12 last season. Obviously, that controversial 27-26 game up there in North Queensland at the end of July. Last game for the evening on the Saturday, the Dolphins host the Storm at Suncorp. Luckily for the Storm, they've got a good record at Suncorp. The Dolphins outsiders at 275, the Storm 145. Out for the Dolphins is Teague and Famasuli. In comes Jesse Bromwich and also Nass's name to play for the Storm. They remain unchanged 1 through to 17. Branko Lee also in for the Dolphins. Some stats in this one include the Dolphins have scored 28+ points in 4 of their last 5 games. The Dolphins 50+ points, total points in their last 6 games. And the Dolphins allowing tries on both edges in their last 6 games. Tabuai Fido, 1+ try in 8 of 10 games. The last 5 Storm wins have been by 8+ points, but they've allowed 16+ points in their last 4 games. Cam Munster, 1+ try in 5 of his last 7 games as well. Some other stats include the Dolphins and Storm both rank in the top 4 for set completion this season. The Dolphins have made the fewest errors of any side with 85. The Storm winger Will Warburg has scored 5 tries in his last 6 games. Tessie New has scored 4 tries in his past 3 games. And it's Jared Wallace's 200th game as well. So there's a reason for the Dolphins to get up in this one. We'll have a look at this one in a bit more depth, but this could be a Dolphins win coming off the back of a bye. We'll just have to look at how the Storm look on paper compared to them, as well as some history at Suncorp and etc. etc. At the moment, the Storm are currently going win loss, win loss, win loss, dating back to win loss, win loss, win win, back to the Sydney Roosters South game, but that was back in April. So we'll have a look into that one in a bit more depth. Sunday's games. Bulldogs versus the Titans and the Raiders versus the Seagulls. So looking at the Bulldogs versus the Titans, this is one the Titans need to win. They're actually only 177 to 205 of the Bulldogs. In comes Arthars for the Bulldogs, so he is named this week to play. The Titans will remain unchanged from 1 to 17. Interesting though is Ken Mamalu has been named in the reserves. So him being named there, he might be a late in depending on who gets up and who isn't. But this is a game the Titans should win easily. Some stats here: the Bulldogs have lost their last 6 games versus top 8 sides. The Dogs have allowed 24 plus points in 5 of their last 6 games. The Titans are scoring 26 plus points in their last 5 games, or right on 26 plus points, 26 points. The Dogs allowed tries to the right edge in their last 6 games, so that's Philip Sammy. Khan Pereira, 12 tries in 10 games. Khan Pereira, 1 plus try in 70 of the last 9 games. And they're allowing tries to the left wing in 5 of the last 6 games. So Arthars, Khan Pereira, Sammy all look likely to score in this matchup. In terms of stats on NRL.com, Arthars has scored 8 tries in his past 4 games against the Titans. So there we go. That's a good stat there. Reid Marnie, the Bulldogs have lost 4 consecutive home games and conceded 107 points in their past 3 games at a core stadium. So Titans win, total points over. Arthars to score, Philip Sammy and Khan P also to score. David Fafita also looked likely to score of late as well. The Raiders versus Seagulls down there in Canberra. The Raiders 155, the Seagulls 245. Out is Savage and Wolford. In comes Harawinara and Kotrick. That's on the bench. So Danny Levi named back in 14, which is good to see. And the rest of those players are on the bench there. For the Seagulls, they've named Jake Trbojevic and Josh Schuster. Out goes Woods, Alloy and Tuolangi. Schuster is named in number 6, so hopefully they can score some more points. But the Raiders 20 plus points in their last 5 games. They've won their last 5 games. Rapana, 1 plus try in 3 of his last 4. Young, 1 plus try in 3 of his last 4. Chris, 1 plus try in 3 of his last 4. And the Raiders are allowing tries to the right edge in their last 5 games and allowing tries to the left edge in the last 8. Manly, 18 points or less in 6 of the last 8 games and allowing tries to the right edge in their last 4 games. So that right edge will be Rapana and also Tomoko there as well. We like the Raiders in that one, probably simple as that. Looking at some round 12 best bets, they'll be on our Instagram reels as well as our TikTok. So as always, feel free to like, follow and subscribe on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok.